Hello, my name is Kathi Schwan, and I am the Volunteer State President for AARP North Dakota. I'd like to welcome you to this month's AARP on Tap. I'm so happy that you're here. Last month, Janelle Moose, the Advocacy Director from AARP North Dakota, debriefed us on the primary election results. We're going to shift our focus a little this month to another topic important to North Dakotans, utility rates. Now, I'm happy to welcome my guest today, Josh Askvig, the State Director for AARP North Dakota. Josh, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Kathy. Good to see you. We're on opposite corners of the state today.
Yeah, couldn't get any further.
Right. Unless you were in Wapaton, then I might be a little.
Well, that's true.
Sure.
Josh, I recently read an article that talked about how AARP has pushed back against proposed utility rate increases and helped consumers save millions of dollars. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work AARP does for consumers?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Kathy. And AARP has a long history of advocating on behalf of people 50 and older, but specifically about advocating on behalf of residential utility customers. You know, in North Dakota, AARP North Dakota is the only organization that generally represents residential customers and residential payers on utility rate issues. And we do that because we know utility rates are an essential pocketbook issue for North Dakota residents 50 plus and their families. And many who we know from other conversations you've had here on your on-tap meetings struggle to pay their utility bills, but also other household expenses like food and prescription drug prices.
Thanks, Josh. Now about the two recent cases North Dakota was involved in 2021. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, and so I want to try and make sure I don't confuse people and do this. So we were involved in two utility rate cases with two different companies in 2021. We had a Montana Dakota Utilities natural gas rate case. So they had filed an increase for increasing their natural gas rates. And then Xcel Energy, who serves the Fargo, Grand Forks area and a number of other places, filed an electric rate increase in 2021. So this was last year. They actually filed them, I believe both filed them at the end of 2020, but by the time they get through the process, it was 2021. And AARP in both instances filed as what's called an intervener, or essentially we're saying, hey, we're here on behalf of residential customers of these two companies, and we have concerns about the proposal that's been filed as part of it. And what was interesting is in the MDU 2021 natural gas rate increase and in the Xcel Energy electric rate increase in 2021, both instances, the company was trying to, any increase that you would pay as a residential customer was going to be in the fixed charge or the fixed customer charge or the service delivery charge. There's a number of different names for it. Each company is a little bit different, but it's the charge you pay before you use any natural gas or any electricity as part of that. And so we fought against that. We also fought against the overall increase as part of it. And in both of those in both of those cases in 2021, when they were all done and settled and resolved in front of the Public Service Commission, we saw a reduction in each company's proposal. And at the end of the day, when you total up those savings, customers like our viewers today saved well over $2 million in rate payments because of our intervention and work in behalf of that. Additionally, I think this is just as important. There's three members of the Public Service Commission. All of them in each of those cases noted the importance of our intervention or the importance of our voice being at the table and being there to be a part of the discussion about what's happening as part of it. And so that was 2021. So now I want to fast forward, and if it sounds like a repeat, it is a little bit, but flip. So more recently, AARP North Dakota in 2022 again intervened on a separate rate case from Xcel. So in 2021, we dealt with Xcel and electric rate increases. Xcel in 2022 filed a natural gas rate increase. Again, they actually filed it at the end of 2021. By the time we got to the case, it's been 2022 this year. And so we were granted status as an intervener by the Public Service Commission. And in June of 2022, our attorneys, as well as an expert witness, represented the roughly 60,000 North Dakota Excel natural gas rate, residential natural gas customer households to fight against that rate proposal that was filed. And that proposal specifically would have increased natural gas rate customers for residential customers as much as 15%. And again, what's additionally concerning is all of that increased amount would be applied to the monthly fixed charge that you pay just for being a customer. So your ability to turn down your thermostat and use less natural gas would have no bearing on the percentage of that increase and the ability to mitigate that increase.
You know, that's so important because, you know, just for being a customer, you get a monthly charge. That doesn't make sense. But the thing that I think is important is that the efforts AARP is doing is not just for the 50 plus. Any, you know, customer benefits from our actions. And if we're the only ones doing it, wow, that says a lot.
Yeah, so just on that point, Kathy,
Yeah.
when we're granted intervention status, we're granted intervention status or advocating on behalf of all residential customers.
Yeah.
Obviously, we view and do our advocacy through a lens of what's going to be the biggest benefit to those age 50 and older. But in general, we're looking at that as what's going to be best for residential ratepayers as part of it.
So has the XL case been resolved at this point?
No, not yet. Both the company and us as interveners made their cases in June. And so public service commission hearings on rate cases are kind of a quasi-judicial process. And so they essentially, the Public Service Commission serves as the jury as part of the case, right? And so the company makes its case, we make our case as part of it. And then what the Public Service Commission does is usually come back a week or two or so after that and schedule what's called a work session. And then they, as public service commissioners in public, discuss what they think should happen. They had a work session about 2 weeks after the original hearing, formal rate case hearing. And in that work session, they couldn't come to a consensus about what they wanted to do and finalize its decision. And so we're waiting for them to schedule another work session. Could be any time now. What will happen is when they schedule that work session, we do expect that at the next work session, they'll come to some sort of resolution on that case as part of it. And when they do come to resolution, it then takes a good month just for the processing for that final decision to actually be implemented and applied. It just takes a little bit of time in terms of, you know, making the decision, noticing it, doing the proper thing. So we expect the decision in this to be wrapped up for Excel. It's sometime in the next approximately 2 months.
Now, I know you and Janelle were involved with the MDU case for electric last month. Is there any more that is, I think it was actually a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was literally 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago yesterday, is part of it. And I know that because we did it on right before the July 4th holiday. We filed and asked to be interveners in a Montana Dakota utility electric rate case as part of that. And so we delivered our petition to intervene, and it has since been accepted. We're specifically concerned about it's a 17% hike on residential customers that's being proposed. And again, if this sounds like new case, same story, it is. Again, they're asking for residential ratepayers only that all of that increase be applied to the fixed charge or the fixed customer charge or the service charge. I forget which each company names it a little bit differently, but essentially the charge you pay just for being a customer before you pay for any of the service or any of the any of the cost of the electricity as that part of it. And what I should know, and I just want to make sure I'm crystal clear here, we're not saying there shouldn't be a fixed component to the bill. We're just saying it shouldn't we shouldn't have the delivery and the cost to serve entirely a fixed charge, because when you do that, you mitigate, especially for older customers who are managing sometimes week to week, day to day, month to month, the ability to mitigate those increases by unplugging devices they're not using for electricity, turning off lights more frequently as part of it. And so we've never said we shouldn't have a fixed component. We're saying it shouldn't always, the increases shouldn't always just be added to the fixed component.
Now, is there a differential between a commercial customer and a residential?
That's the other thing about the Montana Dakota Utility Electric rate filing that they made, or the increase they made, is the balance of who will pay the increase disproportionately falls on residential customers. And so those of us who are residential homeowners and our MDU customers, we're going to pay a larger portion of the utility's $25.4 million total request than, say, a large commercial user is going to pay. And we just think that's unfair. And we're part of the reason we stepped in and said, we think there's other ways to do this. And again, we're not saying no increase. We're not saying, what we're saying is the amount of the increase truly necessary? So we're questioning that. Then once we determine what the amount is needed to make sure the company can operate safely and provide what it is, how do we spread those costs out over the different customer classes? So residential customers, commercial customers, other large, they call them large interruptibles, small interruptibles. How are we applying those costs across those customer classes? And then most importantly, in our mind, once we know what percentage of that increase is going to fall on residential customers, let's not just simply stack it on the fixed charge. Let's make sure that residential customers who may struggle or have those issues have an opportunity to do some self-mitigation as part of it.
Well, it's important that AARP is representing consumers. Is there anything else consumers can do to get involved?
Yeah, in the next couple of months, we're waiting for, I don't want to get too technical, but we're waiting for the Public Service Commission to schedule a public input day. So on the Montana Dakota utility list, let me be clear, for Montana Dakota utility electric customers, if you're in the Montana Dakota utility service territory, we're waiting for them to schedule a public input hearing. And that is for anybody who's a ratepayer for Montana Dakota utility can speak up at that public hearing, explain what their concerns are, outline questions they have, look at those things. And those are important. The Public Service Commission has mentioned before that they take those comments and questions and often helps them formulate questions to ask during the formal rate proceedings that will happen later. So we expect that to happen this year. In addition, we encourage folks to connect with us. Most on our team, I should say, Kathy, does our advocacy work, and she is taking on a larger and larger role in utility work. She has an interest in learning more and being a part of this. And so I'm starting to hand off that work to her more and more, and she's getting interested. And she's always looking for folks who are interested to, help us share concerns, raise questions, and do it. And then the last, I don't want to probably jumping ahead a little bit on you, but I think the other important thing to know is we don't always just beat up utility companies. In fact, I'm pretty proud of shortly after the increases or the rate case that Montana Dakota Utility filed on natural gas, we actually went to them and collaborated with them last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. Everything's kind of running together in the last couple of years, but we've done some collaboration with them to share other ways that customers can, if they're struggling to afford their bills, if they're struggling to afford utility rate costs, can they sign up for balanced billing? Is that an option? Can they get help weatherizing their home, sealing cracks and gaps and those types of things? Do they qualify, and how do they apply for the low income home energy assistance program? So whether that's you need help heating your home or cooling your home as part of it. And so those are all things we collaborated with them. We had a great collaboration. It was kind of I will give the company kudos for this. It was fun to actually be talking and working together to talk about how we can help save consumers money as part of it. And we're not always opposed to each other. There are times and things we do work together on, and goes back to a lesson I learned a long time ago in my career as an advocate, which is there are times we're not going to get along and we're going to disagree and we're going to disagree, but there are times we are going to get along, and let's talk about how we can do those things together too. And so we've always tried to do that and working on that.
You know,
and I should add, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm saying all of us are utility customers, whether you live in an apartment or a house. So it's something that we all need to pay attention to.
Yeah, if you want to, it looks like Janelle just put it in the chat, and we'll make sure it gets put on the when this gets loaded to our YouTube channel for folks to find there. There's a link to the 3-part series we did that she just put in the chat that folks can click on to watch, so they can figure out how they can do some of that weatherization, balance billing, live heat access, etc. In addition, if folks want to get more involved, they can always go to aarp.org/advocacynd. aarp.org/advocacynd.
And I think Janelle probably will put that in the chat as well.
Yep.
You know, I don't see any questions, so we'll wrap up. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Josh?
No, Kathy, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. The wonders of technology. We're visiting some family and wife's folks, and so I'm glad we could do this. And utilities for me are one of the things I really enjoy doing as a state director, because we know the importance of these pocketbook issues, and they really impact people's bottom lines day to day, month to month, year to year. And so we invite you to get involved with us and do this. And thank you for continuing to do this every month, Kathy, to have conversations about the work we're doing.
Well, being I was just in Bismarck this week, it was nice to see that the western part of the state and the eastern part of the state are pretty much on par with gas prices. Yeah. I don't know what it's like in Williston today, but
I didn't look this morning. Yeah, I didn't look this morning when I drove over here as part of it, but I know we stopped in Richardson on our way here from home, and Richardson was $4.15 a gallon.
$4.15?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not bad in Bismarck. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be nice when it drops below the 4.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks,
thank
Kathy.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks for joining me, Josh. And Janelle will put up a slide like she did there of the upcoming opportunities. That shredding event is a good one in Grand Forks. Don't miss it. We just had it in Fargo and it was very well received. And using outdoor fitness equipment, and that's online. You can do that from home, but it's an awesome opportunity. And then on July 27th, the Cross Ranch Hiking Day trip, and that's in person. So thank you again for joining me, and please join me next month to hear about how AARP is helping make communities more age-friendly. We'll see you next month for another AARP on Tap. Thank you.